He is known for being a theologian and philosopher who greatly influenced Western philosophy and Christianity. He is recognized for his important works, including The City of God, on Christian doctrine, and Confessions. His name is Augustine of Hippo. In the ancient North African city of Hippo Regius, a man named Augustine emerged as a prominent figure in the realm of theology and philosophy. Born in the 4th century, Augustine's journey of intellectual exploration began with his fascination for the Manichaean faith and the Hellenistic philosophy of Neoplatonism. However, it was his eventual conversion to Christianity and baptism in 386 that marked a turning point in his life. Augustine's deep belief in the grace of Christ led him to formulate the doctrine of original sin, which became a cornerstone of Western Christian thought. His contributions to the development of just war theory also showcased his ability to synthesize philosophical ideas with theological concepts. As the Western Roman Empire crumbled, Augustine envisioned the Church as a spiritual city of God, distinct from the earthly material world. This vision resonated deeply with those who adhered to the concept of the Trinity as defined by the Council of Nicaea and the Council of Constantinople. Despite some disputes regarding his teachings, Augustine's impact on Western Christian thought cannot be overstated. He is widely recognized as a saint in the Catholic Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church, and the Anglican Communion. His writings influenced numerous theologians and philosophers, and he is considered one of the most important church fathers of the Latin Church. Even in the face of criticism, Augustine's legacy endures, and his teachings continue to inspire generations of thinkers and believers. Augustine's contemporaries often believed astrology to be an exact and genuine science. Its practitioners were regarded as true men of learning and called mathematici. Astrology played a prominent part in Manichaean doctrine, and Augustine himself was attracted by their books in his youth, being particularly fascinated by those who claimed to foretell the future. Later, as a bishop, he warned that one should avoid astrologers who combined science and horoscopes. According to Augustine, they were not genuine students of Hipparchus or Eratosthenes but common swindlers. Epistemological concerns shaped Augustine's intellectual development. His early dialogues Contra Academicos and De Magistro, both written shortly after his conversion to Christianity, reflect his engagement with skeptical arguments and show the development of his doctrine of divine illumination. The doctrine of illumination claims God plays an active and regular part in human perception and understanding by illuminating the mind so human beings can recognize intelligible realities God presents. According to Augustine, illumination is obtainable to all rational minds and is different from other forms of sense perception. It is meant to be an explanation of the conditions required for the mind to have a connection with intelligible entities. Augustine also posed the problem of other minds throughout different works, most famously perhaps in On the Trinity, and developed what has come to be a standard solution, the argument from analogy to other minds. In contrast to Plato and other earlier philosophers, Augustine recognized the centrality of testimony to human knowledge, and argued that what others tell us can provide knowledge even if we do not have independent reasons to believe their testimonial reports. Augustine asserted Christians should be pacifists as a personal, philosophical stance. However, peacefulness in the face of a grave wrong that could only be stopped by violence would be a sin. Defense of oneself or others could be a necessity, especially when authorized by a legitimate authority. While not breaking down the conditions necessary for war to be just, Augustine coined the phrase in his work The City of God. In essence, the pursuit of peace must include the option of fighting for its long-term preservation. Such a war could not be preemptive, but defensive, to restore peace. Thomas Aquinas, centuries later, used the authority of Augustine's arguments in an attempt to define the conditions under which a war could be just. Augustine, born in 354 in Thagast, was raised in a unique cultural and religious environment. His mother, Monica, was a devout Christian, while his father, Patricius, converted to Christianity on his deathbed. Augustine's family, though Berbers by ethnicity, were heavily Romanized and took great pride in speaking Latin. As a member of the upper class, Augustine's first language was Latin, and he considered himself part of the Roman tradition. At the age of 11, Augustine began his education in Madoris, where he delved into Latin literature and encountered pagan beliefs. It was during this time that he had a significant realization about the nature of sin. Augustine and his friends stole fruit from a garden, not out of hunger, but because it was prohibited. He recognized his own flawed nature, stating, "It was foul, and I loved it. I loved my own error, not that for which I erred, but the error itself." This experience led him to understand that humans are naturally inclined to sin and in need of divine grace. At 17, thanks to the generosity of Romanianus, a fellow citizen, Augustine continued his education in Carthage. However, influenced by the hedonistic lifestyle of his peers, he engaged in a promiscuous lifestyle. Despite his mother's warnings, Augustine sought acceptance from his peers by fabricating stories about his sexual exploits. It was during this time that he read Cicero's Dialogue Hortensius, which ignited his love for wisdom and truth, sparking his interest in philosophy. Although raised Christian, Augustine became a follower of Manichaeanism, much to his mother's disappointment. Throughout his youth, Augustine maintained a relationship with a woman in Carthage, even fathering a son named Adeodatus. However, after more than 15 years, he ended the relationship to prepare for marriage with a young heiress. Yet, as he grew closer to becoming a Christian priest, he abandoned the idea of marriage. Despite his brilliance as a student, Augustine never fully mastered Greek, partly due to a cruel Greek teacher. He rebelled against the mistreatment and refused to study the language. Nevertheless, he became a master of Latin, which would later play a pivotal role in his philosophical and theological writings. Augustine, a renowned philosopher and theologian, embarked on a transformative journey through Carthage, Rome, and Milan, each step shaping his philosophical outlook and influencing his approach to daily life. Starting as a grammar teacher in Thagast, Augustine moved to Carthage to establish a school of rhetoric, where he spent the next 9 years. However, he became disheartened by the unruly behavior of his students, leading him to seek new opportunities in Rome, the center of intellectual discourse. In 383, he made his way to Rome, hoping to engage with the brightest minds in rhetoric. Unfortunately, his reception was lackluster, and many of his students failed to pay their fees, leaving Augustine disillusioned. It was during this time that Augustine was introduced to the Manichaean religion, becoming an auditor, the lowest level within its hierarchy. However, his skepticism towards the faith began to grow after a disappointing encounter with the Manichaean bishop, Faustus of Mileve, who failed to provide satisfactory answers to Augustine's questions. In Rome, Augustine found solace in the skepticism of the New Academy movement, which further deepened his doubts about Manichaeanism. Augustine's extensive education and rhetorical prowess allowed him to explore various philosophies and faiths. In Milan, his mother's strong religious beliefs, combined with his own studies in Neoplatonism and the influence of his friend Simplicianus, began to steer him towards Christianity. It was in Milan that Augustine sought out Ambrose, a renowned orator and bishop. The meeting between the two was transformative, as Augustine developed a deep admiration and love for Ambrose, who became a spiritual father figure to him. While in Milan, Augustine's mother arranged a respectable marriage for him. However, he had to dismiss his concubine, causing him great emotional anguish as he mourned the loss of his lover. Augustine confessed that he had been a slave to lust rather than truly embracing the institution of marriage. He even prayed insincerely, asking for chastity and continence but not yet. Despite the challenges and emotional turmoil, Augustine's experiences in Carthage, Rome, and Milan played a significant role in shaping his philosophical and spiritual journey. The encounters with different philosophies and the guidance of influential figures like Ambrose led Augustine to re-evaluate himself and embrace Christianity. These experiences taught him the importance of questioning beliefs, seeking wisdom, and finding solace in faith.
Do you want to explore more philosophers? Who do you want to see featured next? Subscribe and leave a comment below to let me know. I'll see you in the next video.